Thank you, Alex. And first I have to say thank you to Alex, Marcos and Ursen for hosting us here today. Let us able to present. I think we have spoken many times over the last years, or many years, and we have the same perspective. We have an eternal perspective. We have a long-term perspective, and that is important for us in Salmar, because today we want to talk to you a little bit about our company. Why is it important what we do? What is differentiating us from our peers? And what do we think about the outlook going ahead? But we have to start here. Didrik mentioned that us Norwegians likes the ocean. And yes, we do. But 70% of this globe is ocean. But if you measure the energy of the food we eat, only 3% comes from the ocean. Still. And this is something we need to harness going further. And if you look at all external reports, like you see to the bottom left, UN says that we need at least 75% growth in global sustainable aquaculture. And they actually, in that, pinpoints to salmon farming industry from Norway, because we are the most developed aquaculture industry that's raising fish in the oceans. So we are only in the beginning. And as Urs earlier today had Nixon on the presenting back in 71, the salmon farming industry started in the early 70s. So we are a young industry. Even though we produce around 3 million tons today, globally, it's still a very young industry, and the potential is extremely strong going ahead. Because the world needs more healthy food. Population is growing, we need more food. They want a protein with a low footprint, with a low environmental footprint. And as long as we do our job okay, we can be there for the eternity. And we need new technology in order to produce this, in order to harness the potential of different sites in the ocean. And of course, the growing middle class helps with this as well. And our story in Salmar is about this. It's about utilizing the potential we see in the ocean. Because our ambition is simple. We want to produce healthy proteins. But we in Salmar is very focused. We focus on one thing, and that's production of salmon. We don't do any other species or anything. We do what we can do best, and that is salmon. And that's extremely important for us. Because if we are best at that, we will be the best as well, so we don't dilute ourselves. And we are a growth company. We started back in 1991, when our founder and current chairman, Gustav Witzøe, started the company. He bought a company who had one license for salmon farming, and it was a small processing plant. 11 employees. Today, we have grown to become the world's second largest salmon producer. Around 3,000 employees. Our largest is in Norway. We have gradually expanded to the different regions. We started in central Norway, and we expanded to northern Norway back in 2000. UK we came in 2001, Iceland in 2015, and we are the pioneer and leading the development of doing it pure offshore salmon farming. And as I mentioned, we are a growth company. On the bottom, you see we have a CAGR of around 9% since we were listed on Oslo Stock Exchange back in May 2007. And this year, we forecast around 298,000 tons of salmon produced by us. 298,000 tons. It's hard to put that number in perspective, but it equates to more than 2 billion meals that we deliver worldwide. And we are only the second largest. And we see a huge growth potential going forward. I will get back to that. But this is the core of Salmar. Our story is built on the passion for salmon. Everything we do shall be done on terms of the salmon. Meaning, when we expand into new areas, into new technology and everything, we look what is best for the salmon itself. Because the key to salmon farming is that good biology equals good economy. That's the key. And that's the reason why we are fully integrated in the value chain from raw to sales, where we have invested that we are self-sufficient in the smolt side, the juvenile fish. Because if you have to have a good starting point to succeed later on. And it's a long value chain. We're talking 3 years from the start to the end before you get a ready product. So then you have to be meticulous about the details of every single stage. And we are extremely conscious to do what is best for the salmon, to maintain the best fish welfare, to keep mortality low, to keep quality up of the fish. And how do we do that? One thing, optimal locations. Where do we do the farming? It's not the same to do farming in a small fjord compared to further out towards the ocean. You have better currents, you have better temperature, salinity, oxygen levels, everything, which is better for the salmon. And that's the reason why we want to be out there. And at the same time, when the production cycle after almost 2 years are finished in the sea phase, we need to have a flexible setup in harvesting and processing. I know that you can get salmon here in Zurich as well. You see Frøya backline in the grocery stores here, I know that. But we have to have a flexibility to take out the fish when we want it. And we have to have a flexibility in the processing to make those products that the customers want to eat. And at the same time, we need access to the customers worldwide. Today, we send to more than 50 countries around the world. 2/3 of our volume, roughly, goes to Europe. 1/3 goes split between North America and Asia. That's a rule of thumb for us. And there are some secret ingredients why Salmar has had this journey, which is a strong journey. And one of the secret ingredients is actually where we are. It's a conscious choice why we do salmon farming in the regions we do salmon farming. We are in central Norway, northern Norway, offshore Iceland and UK. And why are we here? I have briefly mentioned it. It's because of the biological conditions. In general, compared to our peers, we are a bit more exposed than others, meaning we are a bit further out from the coastline. That gives us better biological conditions, which give better biological results. Better biological results means less cost per kilo. And if you have less cost per kilo, you get the best margin. Easy as that. But you also have to have a strict cost focus in order to have that. But when we have done a series of M&As historically. But if we do an M&A, we don't start with the figures, PE, price to book, or whatever you look at, or EV to EBIT or something like that. We look at where they are. Where do they operate? Are they operating here, there? Do we believe in this site? We look at the biological conditions first, because if it's a bad site, you will do bad. Easy as that. So this is one of the secret ingredients in Salmar. Another secret ingredient is actually our culture. We have a strong culture that says that we always want to improve ourselves. Dedicated, passionate employees along the value chain. And this is not something you can easily replicate. You can replicate use of smolt facilities, you can replicate use of farming sites, but it's harder to replicate the people who does the work. And this is something which has been on our mind since the inception, to build that culture, build those employees, build that competence we need. And it's hard to grasp what is pinpointing it individually along, but I think it's the ability that all employees in Salmar wants to become a little bit better every single day. Just to improve ourselves a little bit better. If we do that, we will become better over time. And those secret ingredients, our value chain and everything, has given us this picture in financial terms. We have consistently delivered strong margins compared to our peers. And as I said, it's all about focusing on biology, on cost, and over the long run, all salmon farmers almost get the same price. And then you get the best margins. And if you get the best margins, you also are the ones who have the willingness to pay for the new M&As, the new licensing and auction rounds and everything. It helps us to grow ourselves, to fund ourselves in our trajectory to become even better. Because the problem with the salmon industry is that there is limited supply. This year, there is around 9% supply growth, especially here. We come from a really bad 24 globally to a very good 25. So it's an exceptional year. You had a lot of capacity in your licenses. But if you look further ahead, we only forecast around 2 to 3% max global supply growth. And why are we doing that? Yeah, because all major producing countries are heavily regulated. Norway is the largest, Chile second largest, then you have UK, Faroe Islands, Iceland, and Canada. All are regulated. You need to have a license to operate, and those regulates how much fish you can have in the sea, and so we cannot go boom straight away. And this limits the supply growth. And as I started with, the demand is very strong. So as you see to the right, the demand for salmon products has increased around 5 to 7% annually. And supply over the last years, if this trajectory continues, we want to close that gap. People want more food. And even though the industry has a limited potential for supply globally, we in Salmar is a little bit different. Because back in 2022, we did a large acquisition. We bought 2 players, NTS and NRS, who, easy said, have a low license utilization. They were not fully invested in the smolt side, the start of the production cycle, and they didn't have the investments in the harvesting and processing, the end of the production cycle. They had the licenses, but they were lacking in those 2 areas. We had invested heavily in both of those 2 areas and had overcapacity. By bringing them on board, we saw that we could utilize our value chain even better, brings economies of scale. But the best picture is that we could grow our volumes in a zero growth environment almost globally. So this year, as I said, 298,000 tons, and gradually up into 28, we will grow gradually up to 378,000 tons. A significant growth of 27%. And if you compare that to our peers, we are in a strong position. And it's not like we need to invest anything to get there. It takes time, because the production cycle of a salmon is up to 3 years. We have done the investments. It's a matter of time and gradually increasing it. So I feel that this brings us in a strong position. And now we want to further strengthen this going from 28, because we have an eternal perspective. We want to be the leading salmon farmer. And Runar will talk a little bit about how we strengthen our value chain.
Sure, thank you, Håkon. As Håkon says, we are quite pleased about being in a position where we can grow by 27% over the next 3 years in an environment where the industry will grow to 2 to 3%. And to become in that position, of course, we have done a lot of work before, as Håkon said. We bought companies that were underutilizing their licenses, and we invested in capex programs to build the smolts. Smolts are the baby fish that you put in the sea. If you take a salmon, it starts its life in the freshwater, in the rivers, where there it's born. And when it becomes gradually bigger and more brave, it goes towards the ocean, and it comes to the brackish water where the salt meets the fresh. And it stays there until he is comfortable by going out to the ocean. In a farming environment, we need to do the same. So we build freshwater facilities onshore that produce 20, 30, 40 million baby salmon. All of those investments is like 1.5 billion NOK investments that takes 2 to 3 years to be built, but we needed to have that capacity in line to utilize those licenses that we were buying. So the capex had to come first, then the underutilized licenses, then you put yourself in a position for growth. We also needed to build the harvesting and processing capabilities that let us take the fish in and make the products that the global scene wants. And when you have those licenses, you have those capabilities, you need the unsung hero of salmon farming, which is the sites. People don't realize how important a great farming site is. To have that site, as Håkon says, with the perfect temperature regime, the strong unidirectional currents, and the right environment is what makes a good farming environment, which makes a good feed conversion ratio. It brings you a higher survival rates, it brings you the lowest cost, and by that, the biggest earnings. And it's not like you can just put your hand up and say, I want to produce here. it is a thorough process. It takes 3 to 5 years to apply for a place where you can farm. That's true in all producing countries. And by the end of that process, you can get a no, right? So it's about being early on to make sure that you have those great sites where you can produce your fish, because that gives you the best opportunity to produce that fish at the cost and the quality that you want. And when you have all that in place, as we said, we need to invest in the genetics. The genetics is the breeding programs that you have for your fish. Salmar has its own genetic strain where we breed on the qualities that we want. We want to have a robust fish, we want to have a fish that has a good on-growth factor, and we want the fish to have a resistance to sea lice, which is a natural parasite that lives in the ocean. All of this is long programs, take 5 to 7 years, but it's a consistent investment for us to make sure for when you have done all the capex, you have the licenses, you have the sites, you also want to have the best possible starting point with the life, meaning the baby fish. So that is extremely important. And then we come to our smolt facilities. There we always need to be ahead of the curve, making sure that we have enough fish produced, the juveniles, to put in the ocean so that we can be on our growth trajectory. So that is also very important. And within that, we see a lot of new development when it comes to, which has also been very important for salmon farming in Norway, the development of good vaccines. Historically, the history of salmon farming was that you got diseases, you used antibiotics to cure your fish, and then you got it up. That was the truth in the 90s. Then you started to look at, okay, what are they doing in other industries? What are we doing for ourselves? You get a vaccine when you're born that protects you against the most common diseases. We do the same thing now for salmon. So every baby salmon goes through a vaccination program before it goes into the ocean, protecting it against all the major normal diseases that get in the sea, making it again robust for a healthy life without the need of use of antibiotics in the sea phase. And when we come to the sea phase, I will touch back on that later. There's a variety of production technologies that we use. And that is also quite unique for Salmar. We are the only one that is using all currently known production technologies. And that's because we don't believe, as some, that one technology is the right solution for everything. We say that, okay, first we need to look at where you are going to live. Are you going to live in a fjord? Are you going to live exposed? Or are you going to live in the open ocean? And based upon the answer on that, we will say, okay, then we need this type of technology. And also based on the answer of that, we need to say that, okay, as a smolt, you can come out of your kindergarten, if you will, your smolt facility, you can come out at 120 grams. Then you are ready, but then you should live in the coast or exposed area. If you're going to live in the ocean, you need to be a bigger, a little bit more robust. Then we need to grow you in the kindergarten till you're 700 grams, and then we can take you out to the sea. So it's not one type of smolt that is correct. It's not one type of technology is correct. It's all about finding the right solution based upon the farming site where you operate. And also when we come to the harvesting and value adding, it's very important for us that we have the flexibility. We are proud to call ourselves the biggest value adder in Norway. It gives us a lot of opportunities. One thing is that it creates a lot of jobs locally, which we are also proud of. Another thing is that you can use your waste resources, the offals and the guts that previously you paid to get rid of. Now we send to other companies that make fish meal and fish oil out of it, and now that's actually a product that also brings a healthy return. So it's quite extraordinary to see how that has been developing over the last years. And also by doing this, where we have the control of the raw material. If you have a superior fish, meaning the best quality, you get the best price. If you have a fish that for some reason has a wound or something and you sell it as a whole fish, you need to sell it at a discount. But if you have the value-adding capabilities, you can use that fish better. Instead of selling it as a fish as a discount because of an external wound, you can, for example, take that skin off and make portions or fillets instead. So that also brings value-adding to your total production. And when we look at the seas, it's hard to think, but when we are here, you see different sites, and here you see how the sites interconnect with each other. So it's really important that you do a good job when you plan on where you are and what type of technologies you use. You want to see the water depths, the currents, the wave heights, the up and down welling, all of this to protect your fish. Because if you're doing a good job on one site and your neighbors on the next site doing a bad job, I get sea lice, for example, other parasites that you don't want or need, that will infect you, right? So you need to plan on how you're doing this in a grander scale, not only for yourself, but also with your neighbors. And this is something that has been developing a lot, and I could spend all of my time just talking about that because it's quite interesting. But yeah, I will spend more time on it, but a little bit later. So that's how we see the entire coastline, and we especially adapt how we do our production. And we think this is very important, and we think also this is one of the keys why we are quite confident that we will be reaching our growth trajectories, because we now tailor to each and individual site, which gives us the growth and the security of the biology. And if you look at different technologies today, we have the traditional sites. This is the one commonly known. In one site, I don't know if you've noticed, there's 200,000 fish. That means that you produce 1,000 tons of meat in one cage alone. Right? So it's huge meat production in a site that has 158 meters in circumference, right? And at peak production in one site, there's 97.5% seawater and 2.5% biomass. Take that picture and you look at other meat production, and you can see that the fish really has a lot of space, of course, because it can move in 2 dimensions, both sideways and up and down, giving it a lot of space within that cage. At the start of the production, it's 0.0 something percent biomass, but at the top, when we need to take it out, it's 2.5. And one of the, I'm spending a lot of time now, but one of the biggest predators that we have in the currents in the oceans in Norway is a small predator. It's called a sea lice. It's a parasite that lives naturally in the ocean, so it's a bad neighbor that we need to coexist with. It will never go away. So how can we live together? It's the question. And we're seeing that, and that is heavily regulated in Norway. You can only have 0.5 sea lice per fish at maximum, so meaning 1 lice on 2 fish, right? And we are now investing a lot in lasers. That does a great job. Unfortunately, this is not a video. It's a submerged laser under sea with advanced camera technology that looks at the fish, and if it sees a small sea lice on the salmon, it shoots a laser beam that kills the lice, and the fish goes from. So you can look down, you see all these green lights going, and of course this energy burst on that sea lice, on that laser beam has been tailored so it can't hurt the fish, no matter where it hits it, but it kills the sea lice. It's quite extraordinary to see. And that technology keeps us holding sea lice levels on a very low level, and it gives us the opportunity to treat less, and by that also increasing our own growth and reducing our cost. We have submerged sites because, again, to protect against the sea lice, sea lice likes to be in the 0 to 8 meters depth. So if you take the entire production lower than that, we have less problems with sea lice. But then again, you need to know your farm very well, because if you have a straight current that goes through it, this works well. But if you have a downwelling current that goes like this, goes up and down in the deep and up again, it doesn't help that you bring your fish level further down, because the sea will take the sea further down, the sea lice with it further down. So you need to do your analysis on your farm. And we are quite proud to say that we have done thorough analysis on all our farms now, and by that helps us choose what technology we should use. We have the semi-closed, again, protecting against the sea lice. We have the closed, which is a system that we can use mostly to produce larger smolts in the sea and protect them against the lice. You can take it out when it's 120 grams, put it there, grow it to its bigger, and then put it offshore. And I have a limited amount of time, but this is a more cost-effective way than building huge small facilities on land. And the major one for us, of course, is the offshore. Here I could also spend all my time. This is very, very exciting. An offshore farm unit like this is 68 meters high, 110 meters in diameters, 7,500 tons of steel, 250,000 cubics of seawater, 1.6 million salmon. And if you put that out, the reason why you do the offshore farm is that you're searching again for those best areas. You want to have the right temperature regime, you want to have the right currents and the right depths. And in the coastal areas, those are limited, because there's been a lot of expansion there already, and you have conflicting interests. You have the cabin owners, you have the kayak paddlers, you have the fishermen, right? All of these conflict interests. So that makes those fights to get those areas hard. But if you move one step further out, because this system can withstand waves up to 11 meters, right? And then you can take a huge step further out, and then you open brand new areas for farming that hasn't been done before with this new type of technology, allowing for new growth. So it's very, very exciting. And all of those 250,000 cubics of seawater in our farm is changed every 8 minutes due to strong unidirectional current going through, meaning that you have the optimal conditions for your fish at any given time. We are quite proud of that. And of course, all of this is very important for us when we are to increase our production and get the growth that we want. Håkon will come back a little bit more to talk about demand, but we're seeing extremely strong demand at the moment, so that's good, helped with the lowered salmon prices for the first half this year. I will touch a little bit upon China, which has been the strongest growing market. It's a long history there as well. The Nobel Peace Prize Committee gave the Nobel Peace Prize to Liu Xiaobo, who was a human rights activist in China. The Chinese it wasn't well received, so they banned Norwegian salmon for a period, but in 19 we came back. And in 21 we came back for full. And we say last year, China bought 100,000 tons of Norwegian salmon. In June this year, they had bought the same volume. So you can see over 100% growth year over year just to China alone. And when you look at what has happened to China is that historically they have been a large fish market, buying the biggest fish, the best quality, at a premium price to put in their best hotels and their best restaurants. But then that market has also matured, and now they are buying different qualities, different sizes, and filling the supermarkets. Actually driven by US supermarkets like Costco and Sam's Club, which has pushed salmon as a strategic product, and you can see that the Chinese are following after. So I just want to show a video because I think this is a great example. We have a very good customer in China. We have just sent him a lot of salmon, more than he had required, more than his contract said that he would get, but he says, I need more fish, I'm out. So then, but you have already gotten 4 more PMCs. We have other customers as well. Yeah, but you need to send me more salmon. And I said, well, we have fulfilled our contract obligation. And say, one moment, I'll send you a video. And then he sent us this. And here you see the salmon trying to go to the cooling display, but it never reaches its cooling display because all of the salmon is already picked before it gets there. You can see it's still empty. And based upon this video, we sent him 2 more PMC because we can say we see your problem. We see what we can see what we can do. Yeah. So we are seeing a very strong demand, and I think Håkon will talk a little bit more how we see the market at the moment.
And China is one example, as Runar mentioned, and it's a really fun story about that guy who wanted more. But Norwegian salmon in general is the world's most popular fish. A strength from salmon in itself is actually the versatility. You can eat it raw, cooked, grilled, barbecued, seasoned, whatever you want. And if you rank, this is a Norwegian Seafood Council who asked which fish do you prefer in weekdays. Norwegian salmon comes on top for the world's most popular fish. And it's a strong brand for the product in itself. And we experience strong demand in all key markets around the world. Runar has mentioned China with a very strong role. I can mention US, and we talked about tariffs earlier today. We got 15% in Norway. And even though we have 15, and Chile has 10, UK has 10, we haven't seen our customers taking less amount of salmon. The same volume is going at all time, and for new contracts going into 26, then when we got the 15 now in August, they actually said we want a little bit more volume, and we have wanted that a higher price in US dollar per kilo measured year over year. But as you know, the dollar has weakened, so in NOK per kilo terms, it's a little bit less than last year. So it's a strong signal for us again, because we have a strong interest in fixed priced, fixed volume contracts going into 26 now. And the current forward price is around 85 NOK per kilo for 26. And now we have secured more than 30,000 tons already, around 10% of our volume next year, which will above that current forward price. It's a very strong signal for us because customers want to secure the volume into 26. Because this year has been special. It has been low salmon prices for the first half in particular. And the problem with that is, of course, the financial situation. The good thing about that is actually we grow demand. We grow more customers who eat salmon. And you particularly see it now in August, September, where the promotions really kick in. When we took this picture on stage in our Q2 presentation, this is all pictures from the last week before we stood there. In all key markets, there are ongoing promotions. And over the last weeks from Norway, around 40,000 tons has gone out. That's the peak that can come out from Norway for 1 week. And you have seen the prices going like this. So going from the 50s to now we are in the 70s. So we see a very strong demand for our product. And also when you compare ourselves to other animal proteins, salmon is in a good place now. We are very affordable compared to pork, meat, all red meats, because we also see inflation on those type of proteins. So to sum things up, we feel that we are very well equipped for the further growth we want. We have dedicated and passionate employees. We have a strong growth potential, 27% in the next 3 years. And we are in a position that we produce a product that the world needs. We think it's a unique position, it's a strong position. And we also feel that we are now here in a position that we see costs coming down, volume going up, prices going up. For us, we see this as a strong position. And to end our presentation, we just want to show you a little movie about how we operate, how we think, and what we think about the future.
It is never easy to venture into the unknown. But here, where we come from, it is in our blood. Here, where the storms come quickly and without mercy, venturing into the unknown was never a choice. It was a necessity. The only thing heavier than the work was the responsibility. And the only thing that was simple was the goal. It was about putting food on the table, keeping the lights on. And even when it seemed impossible, we dove into it. It's never easy to change course. But here, where we come from, it is in our blood. Here, where the forces are greater than our understanding, we have seen the value of knowledge passed down through generations, gained through hardship, missteps, perseverance. We can never change the forces, but our understanding has grown and continues to grow. The more we learn, the more we realize how much remains to learn. And the more we grow, the more we understand how small we really are. Nothing is easy. You may like to believe that technology has all the answers, or that someone else will do the work for us. But that's not how it works. We are still venturing into the unknown, and it's not a choice, it's a necessity. The responsibility is just as heavy, if not heavier. It is still about putting food on the table and keeping the lights on. And even when it still seems impossible, we dive into it. It's in our blood. Yeah, where we come from.